Well, Australians should be allowed to arm themselves to protect against the threat of terrorism. That's the call this morning from Senator David Leyonhjelm, and he joins me now.
Bankers are doing everything they can to get the guns off Americans with, Orlando and Vegas, as if they're going to let any other people, including Australians, begin to arm themselves because they want to sort of disarm. This was David Leyonhjelm. I think he's onto what's going on, perhaps, but it's pretty futile, as you'll see with this story. There's no way. It's got terror, self-defence. Absolutely no way, because there's a big, strong policeman with a machine gun. He'll protect you. No, he'll be shooting you once you decide you want to protest or bet all your savings being taken out of your bank account to pay off a debt that you didn't approve. Righto.
Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You wouldn't be alone in thinking it.
No, I think quite a lot of people think along the same lines. We get into arguments about the details, of course, but I think the general idea of being responsible for your own safety and having the means to do it, it's pretty popular.
Let's talk.
Well, I couldn't agree entirely with the Senator, because there's a group of people who I know it's not popular with.
Detail, what sorts of things should people be able to arm themselves with?
Well, my argument is that pepper, mace and personal tasers, which are non-lethal, should not be prohibited, should not be restricted. So you should need a licence, you should be able to carry that for your self-defence pretty much without any restrictions. The lethal means of self-defence, which are guns and so forth, obviously that should only be available to people who know how to use them.
A couple of hours down at the range at Penrith and, you'd be pretty well up to speed. You know how to use a gun. So this looks like it might get off the ground.
But off-duty police, for example, who do know how to use a gun, why shouldn't they be able to carry them and to protect themselves and their families and other people if the need arises?
OK, have you spoken to anyone in law and order about the plan or what you'd like to see?
Yeah, this is not a new idea. This has been around a long time.
Yeah.
And yes, there's quite a lot of support for it. Obviously, there are people who hate guns and they say, "Oh no, nobody should have guns."
No, just mean, have you spoken to anyone in law and order?
Oh yes. I mean, I know a number of police officers, and their attitude is, if you know how to use it, if you know how to use a gun, you should be able to use one to protect yourself. Not just for anybody. And of course, non-lethal means of self-defence. The police can't be everywhere, and they acknowledge that. The sensible ones, at least, they say, it takes us 5, 10, 15 minutes even in the city to be there. By that stage, you can have a lot of victims.
If terror was as real and ongoing and as scary and as threatening as what the government would have you believe, then what Leyonhjelm just said then would make perfect sense. Police can't be there. When seconds count, police are only minutes away, and he's right. An actual terrorist, as described to us and demonstrated by ISIS-K and Jimmy Gargasaurus and that Yaqub and all around the world, all this big terror. Well, you're going to have multiple casualties. So wouldn't it be good to just have everyone defend themselves? Well, I don't think Carl, being on this network, will be arguing in the positive, in the affirmative.
As good as the debate is, I think the police are going to beg to differ on this because your plan could see millions of Australians carrying potentially lethal weapons. And despite your good intentions, won't this make our streets perhaps not as safe as they are right now, but in fact more dangerous than what they are now?
That's the usual call that people respond with. The fact is, there are other countries in the world where this idea is not novel, where it's long-standing. The Czech Republic, for example, has a lower level of murders than Australia does, and yet you can get a permit to carry a pistol for self-defence. As long as you're not a violent person, as long as you don't have a criminal record, you can carry a gun for self-defence in the Czech Republic. And it's a very safe country. It's safer than Australia. Switzerland pretty much too, although you have to prove that you're under some sort of threat.
So you do want guns on the streets, that people will be able to carry guns on the streets? Well,
there are already guns on the streets. There are in New South Wales.
For anyone to be able to do it?
In New South Wales, there's 16,000 police on the streets carrying guns. There's Malcolm Turnbull's bodyguards carry guns.
Yeah, but just in terms of everyday people, you're saying that's okay?
Well, not everybody.
Wouldn't that lead to more problems on the streets? I mean, the cops we've spoken to this morning, right, they say tasers or any electronic item, and these are just the basic items, they're not considered legal to use, obviously. They are prohibited items that only police can carry. They require training, they require expertise, and even knives are a worry because they end up causing huge issue for police on the streets.
Well, knives are a big problem, as we found out with ISIS, but you can get a knife just out of your kitchen drawer. Look, Leyonhjelm's making sense here. And Stefanovic's really having trouble. Which police did he speak to? He didn't actually go in to say, he just said, oh, you need training, but they didn't say, well, everyone can get that training, can't they? It's easy to do.
Well, you know, they can say you're entitled to an opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. The fact is, Australia is very unusual for having such a prohibitive attitude towards practical means of self-defence. Very few countries take such a pacifist approach. You know, hardly any country in the world where you are officially enforced to be a victim, whether you like it or not. And you look at those other countries, and there are, you know, dozens, hundreds of them, where we are allowed to carry something like a taser or a pepper spray or mace or something like that, or a knife, and protect yourself. You know, you don't get all this mayhem that people predict. So I don't see why Australia would be any worse.
I know it makes perfect sense. The government makes out like we can't be trusted and we just start running around shooting each other up, which wouldn't happen, but that's what they say, so that's their excuse. And this debate was quite a while ago, this story on the Today Show, and it has been mentioned since, so I wouldn't be holding your breath that the government's going to start handing out, you know, issue guns to protect yourself or let anyone have them. No, they've got the guns, they've got the bollards, they've got the shoot to kill laws, so yeah, we know which way that's going. All right, that's it.